Our final piece for the evening is an excerpt of a novel by
Excerpt of a short story.
Sorry?
Excerpt of a short story.
Excerpt of a short story. Sorry? We don't always rehearse either. By Lysley Tenorio. I'm no Gray.
Is she here?
Lysley is the author of Monstrous. Is Lysley here?
Stand up, Lysley.
The author of Monstrous, which is available at our merch table. His stories have appeared in The Atlantic, in Zoetrope All Story. Yeah. Be impressed, yes. Plowshares, Manoa, the Chicago Tribune, and the Best New American Voices and Pushcart Prize anthologies. He's a former Stegner Fellow at Stanford. He has received a Whitting's Writer Award and fellowships from the MacDowell Colony, Yaddo, and the National Endowment for the Arts. He teaches at St. Mary's College of California and lives in San Francisco. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an excerpt from Superassassin by Lysley Tenorio, read by Robert Thomas.
September 1958, Coast City, California. The noble alien Abin Sur, protector of Sector 2814 of our galaxy, crash lands on Earth. Buried beneath the rubble of his spacecraft, he uses his last flicker of energy to summon task pilot Hal Jordan and offers him the fabled Ring of Power, a weapon created by the Guardians of Oa. With his dying breath, Abin Sur asks, "Will you be my successor, Hal Jordan? Will you swear to use this ring to uphold justice throughout the universe?" "I swear it," Jordan promises. He slips the ring onto his finger and takes the Guardian's oath. "In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light." For nearly 4 decades, Hal Jordan will save the universe on countless occasions as the Green Lantern, one of Earth's greatest champions. But in the 1990s, just years from the new millennium, he turns on the Guardians and becomes the most powerful villain in the galaxy. The question remains, did the Green Lantern die a villain or a hero? This question has stumped historians in recent years. This essay will retrace the history of the Green Lantern and conclude once and for... Black ink streaks across my paper when Brandon DeStefano swipes it from my desk. "May I?" he asks. His eyes rush side to side over my words. "Listen to this crazy shit," he tells him, his best friend. Brandon reads my paper to Tenzel in what's supposed to be my voice, adding an accent that isn't mine. Then he looks up at me, shaking his head in disapproval. "It's supposed to be about a real person in history, freak. What's wrong with you?" "Hey," Tenzel whispers from behind me, "maybe I'll do mine on the Tooth Fairy." I don't waste my time. Talk. I put up my hand out for the paper's return. Brandon makes sure Mr. Cosgrove isn't looking and then crumples my paper, hurling it at me like a grenade. It hits my face and falls dead to the ground. "Kapow!" Brandon says, pointing his finger at me like a gun. "Why don't you use your power ring to stop it?" Tenzel holds up his palm and the two high-five each other as if they've accomplished some great feat of teamwork. "No dynamic duo." "What?" Brandon asks. "You are," I lean into him, aligning my eyes with his. "No dynamic duo." I say each word slowly, every syllable getting equal time. It's not my place to make terrible truths easier to hear. All I do is reveal them. Suddenly, Tenzel's finger flicks my ear, fast and hard. My neck jerks, my back stiffens. I feel the heat just below my right temple. "You're whacked, man," he says. I know better than to tell Mr. Cosgrove. Not because I'm afraid, I just prefer another kind of justice. I pick up my essay from the floor, pulling at opposite corners to undo the crumpled mass. It's wrinkled like old skin, so I rub it between my hands, up and down, until my palms burn from the friction. When the page is smooth, I continue to write, even after the bell rings and the classroom is empty. Only when Mr. Cosgrove starts locking windows and shutting many blinds do I stop. "Mr. Cosgrove?" He can't hear me above his whistling, so I say his name again. "What? Oh, sorry," he turns to me. "Didn't realize you were still here." I know. I start erasing his chalkboard for him. "I just wanted to tell you that I'm excited about this assignment. I think I'll learn a lot from this." He nods. "I'm sure you will." I used to hate this class. Subject. "History changes," he says, smiling. "And I used to hate you." For 4 seconds, Mr. Cosgrove is silent. Then he says, "I guess we all change then, don't we?" He looks me in the eye, smiling. After some moments of examination, I decide the smile is sincere, so I nod in return. I wipe chalk dust from my shirt and offer to help him with the windows, but he says they've been done and he needs to get home. I grab my backpack from my chair, and before I leave, I tell him that his class is my favorite. The only one that's useful in the real world. Long before the heckling from classmates, the questioning stares from old church women, and long before I knew the true story of my father, I was aware of the strange mutant abilities that my body possesses. Though my skin is fair, I never burn in the sun. I can barely manage a midsummer tan. When the seasons change, so does the color of my hair, back and forth from brown to black. Despite my roundish face, I have a unique bone structure that captures both shadow and light in just the right places. In the proper lighting, my face can be startling. And my eyes, somewhere between slanted gashes and perfect ovals, are 2 colors. The right is as brown as wet earth, and the left is jet black. Perfect obsidian orb. I keep them behind slightly tinted eyeglasses. 15 years ago, at the moment of my spawning, no one could have guessed the potency of my hybridity. "What are you thinking about now?" Luke asks me. He's quick to interrupt my meditations, dismissing them as daydreams. He shoots a rubber band at me from across the table. It bounces off my right lens. When I tell him to quit, to stop or I will kill him, I'm shushed by the librarian, who frowns at me like an archenemy whose plans I've just foiled. "You're zoning out again," Luke says, sliding his grammar book over to me. "You said you would help me, so help." Though Luke is the most intelligent and perceptive student in the 9th grade, and the only other person I've known who is able to comprehend the theories of an antimatter universe. His counselor insists that he take ESL classes. His English standardized testing says is not up to speed. In grade school, they said the same thing about me. I knew the words. I had a 10th grade vocabulary by the time I was 8. I just chose not to speak. We muddle through the textbook examples of passive voice, and I even devised my own exercises in comic book format. Superman has been killed mercilessly by me, proclaimed Doomsday. But today I am in no mood to be a champion of standard written English. Later, I promise. Luke shrugs his shoulders, thinking I've given up, that surrendering is a possibility. So I rescue the moment by suggesting dystopia, and his frown morphs into a smile. In a flash, we cram books into our backpacks, slip on our raincoats, and pull hoods over our heads. As we exit the library doors, psychos, faggots, losers, reaches from behind study carrels. Luke and I stop to face our accusers, giving them looks that we will substantiate when the time is right. Then we're out the library door, off the campus, under the afternoon drizzle. We stand at the bus stop, two secret heroes on the fringes of winter, waiting for the sun, any source of rejuvenation, just one outbound bus away from here and into the city. Dystopia Comics is the only all-used comic book store in this city. Most stores file away their back issues in neat alphabetized rows, each one sealed in a plastic bag. But Dystopia lives up to its name. Comics are stuffed into shoddy cardboard boxes, and Luke and I spent hours rummaging through bin after bin. In the past half hour, Luke has found issues of Justice League and Sandman, and even a water-damaged issue of The Watchmen. And I've started a small stack of old issues of Green Lantern, precisely what I need for my research. Sometimes I think that Luke and I possess an extra sense, an instinct for finding small treasures among the torn and the discarded. Closing time, a husky voice mutters from behind and above me. I do a quick 180, fists clenched and ready. I face the cashier, who stands just inches away from me. His globular belly is even closer, oozing over the elastic waistband of his Bermuda shorts. If you're gonna read it, then buy it. I give Luke the signal and shift my eyes back to the cashier. Pardon me, sir, I say, but your volume is infringing upon my space. He blinks. My what? The amount of space your cubic units are occupying. He blinks again. So? I've confused him. I've thrown him off, and all he can do is point to the clock. Just hurry it up, all right? My eye catches the exposed belly once more. With the proper serrated edge, I could carve a tunnel right through it. I smile at the mass before me. Let's go, Luke. We walk out the door and turn the corner into a narrow alley. We crouch down to the ground, shielded between dumpsters, and Luke unzips his backpack. From between textbooks and folders, he pulls out our stack of comics. Distracting longer next time, he says. He almost turned around too soon. No back talk from the sidekick. I go through the comics and take what's mine. The rain has stopped. Still, we don our hoods. We proceed into the street, outside the crosswalk lines, defying the blinking red hand before us. Nice work, I tell Luke. See you tomorrow. 0700 hours. 0700 hours, he confirms. On sad nights, my mother listens to her 45 RPM of Johnny Angel over and over again until she passes out. Tonight's going to be one of those nights. Before I can even lock the door behind me, she starts screaming, asking where I've been. Nowhere, I tell her, just out. What should I do if something happened to you out there, she asks, one hand on her hip, the other tugging at the neckline of her Las Vegas sweatshirt. What should I do then? She takes heavy, staggered breaths and begins to empty the kitchen cupboards, throwing food we need over the fire escape, weeping, uttering profanities about men and why they are the way they are. I give her 5 quick shots of Johnny Walker and put her to bed. I take off her shoes, pull the sheets over her, and press replay on the turntable. She puts her arms around my neck and pulls my face to hers, telling me what a good boy I've been. "Don't you change," she whispers. I can feel the tears on her lips wetting my ear. "Go to sleep, Mom," I whisper. I pull down the shades, shutting out the last bits of daylight. She got left again. I knew my mother was feeling hopeful this time around. This guy lasted almost 4 weeks. When I warn her, she tells me I'm crazy, so this time I kept quiet. But I saw it coming. Her strategy was faulty. She had been making domestic offerings, a home-cooked meal of lumpia and pinakbet, Filipino delicacies she calls her love potions, but they lack any magical properties. Her men always see the food as alien and weird, a little too far from home, so they take what they want and vanish. "Ride a rocket to the moon, that's fine," she once slurred to some guy on a phone. "Baby, won't you please come back?" It was my 12th birthday party, but I wasn't the one who wanted him there. I took the receiver from her hands. "Accidents happen, bastard," I warned, "so watch your back." She grabbed the phone and hit me with it. I then apologized for my rudeness, but he'd already hung up. Mom's messed up universe started with one bad star. A 9-month marriage to the man who was my father. He brought her to the States, a living knick-knack from his military days. Their union, brief as it was, spawned me and all my biological peculiarities. "You're like Aquaman," Luke said when I told him the story. "Cool." But Aquaman's mother was a mermaid and his father a human. Nothing is human within the man who was my father. He disappeared from her life just hours before I was born. What I imagined, what I'd even dreamed, is that he's a sinister breed of assassin with white hair and white skin, white eyes, invading alien streets, sent to find and fuck my mother and then finish her off. When she's drunk, she talks about my origin, sticking the 6th story in my head, panel after panel after panel. And then she'll break in half. Johnny Angel and Johnny Walker to the rescue. But I forgive her. Like all heroes, she needs her fortress of solitude, her paradise island, any place tucked away from the evil in the world. Not to worry, I keep a lookout. In the morning, I knock on my mother's door 3 times, but she's out cold. She's already late for work, so I go into her bedroom and lay her pink waitress uniform on a chair. I whisper goodbye, and I leave for school. Luke meets me on the corner. "Ready?" I ask. He opens his backpack. "It's all here." "Good," I nod. "Let's go." We have our enemies. Today, Luke and I will deliver Brandon DeStefano to justice. Last week, we were reading comics at lunch on football field bleachers when Brandon and Tenzil walked by. "It's Luke the Goat!" Brandon screamed. I gave him the finger, and Luke told him to go run along with the other non-sentients. "Non-what?" Brandon said, climbing towards us, bleacher by bleacher. "I don't understand Korean, gook." Then Tenzil reached from behind and snatched Luke's comic, an almost valuable issue of Swamp Thing number 12. He tossed it to Brandon, who stuffed it down the back of his pants, and farted on it, and dropped it in a puddle beneath the bleachers. "Freaks," he said, and they walked towards the lunch courtyard. trail of sinister ha-ha-has ricocheting behind them. Luke went down to rescue the comic, but I was still watching when his head started twitching, shoulder and ear crashing against each other. His spine arched forward and back, each vertebra breaking through the skin until the body was no more, and then in a flash of light, Brandon DiStefano became the gas. A force able to release methane-based emissions powerful enough to stun an enemy or wipe out an entire planet. Luke and I vowed revenge. I intend to get it. We get to school early, while the boys' locker room is still empty. We find the gas's locker, and in 74 seconds, Luke picks the lock. I pull the imposter right guard deodorant from my backpack and I make the switch. Later, when PE is over, Luke and I dress quickly, taking position by our lockers. We keep an eye out for the gas, who has just emerged from the showers. He comes closer, but pays us no mind. In regular street clothes, we're anonymous, really world men. The gas dries himself off and reaches into his locker for his deodorant. He shakes the can once, twice, and removes the cap. He raises his arm above his head, positioning the right guard at his armpit. Before he can spray, Luke and I vanish. The gas has no idea of the power that's about to befall him. No one ever does. First, my enemies underestimate me. Then I smash them.
Can be continued in Lysley's book, which is being held up right there behind the lovely character.
That will conclude our fourth edition of Action Fiction. Again, all the stories you have read here will be appearing one by one on fiction365.com beginning next week when we get the videos. Hopefully they have turned out. The videos, to the extent doable, will be appearing through Omnibucket, so keep an eye on omnibucket.com. Sign up on our mailing list or watch Omnibucket for future events and other things that we have going on. Is there anything else I'm missing here?
I will also announce the videos being put up on the meetup group. So if you're from the meetup group, that's how you'll find out about that.
Okay.
And anyone interested in submitting work to be read or to do any performances or anything like that on both sides of it, you can just either go to the site or contact Scott at Omnibucket
or email me through the meetup.
Or email me through the meetup. You can figure out.
We're surprisingly approachable.
But we're always open to new writers and performers being a part.
So, for fiction365.com and Omnibucket, I'm Benjamin Wax.
Scott Lambrius.
Bill Ayers from San Francisco Writers Community.
Thank you.